Welcome to the Filmsteins, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmsteins. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmsteins, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmsteins. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I am joined by my panicking friend, Lucy.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
You can join us every Monday and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmsteins on all the free feeds, and every other Wednesday for new Patreon exclusive episodes on patreon.com/Filmsteins. Some recent episodes include Lady Bird, I Saw the TV Glow, The Watchers, A Quiet Place Day 1. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe for $1. Write nice reviews. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. Come request a movie. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at HempvilleCBD.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we will be discussing Steven Spielberg's 2005 film War of the Worlds, with Tom Cruise and a young Dakota Fanning, and the guy from Shameless, Jimmy. I kind of wonder what the world felt like at the time of War of the Worlds, what the reception was, but this movie's not super good. It's kind of bad. Let's go ahead and say it. It's kind of a bad movie. But I will say, I had fun. Right up until the end. The end got 10 out of 10 stupid. But that's fine. The first 15 minutes of this are pretty tight. I like the lightning coming down. The local world building and panic is very cool. Obviously, easy to set up with alien invasions because it scratches this itch we all have. But the ultimate quest of proving that Ray, can be a good dad is stupid. Stupid. We get some of these fun things like these elements of panic and fear and hysteria and patriotism and even some of these kind of horror building moments, all to be neutered by us seeing the aliens play with the fucking bicycle. And then doubled down when we finally take out a tripod, we see an alien kind of cartwheel out of his ship, and the movie basically ends on that note. I was like, man, there's a good movie in here, but this is not good. But I am happy to say that this is a new entry in my guilty pleasure catalog, maybe? You know? But my man, you are probably the biggest catastrophe movie fan I know. You like the monsters, you like the sharks, the world ending. This has got some of that energy with some of that fear. How do you feel about War of the Worlds?
I was very excited to watch this movie because not only am I a sci-fi fan in general, I'm a big fan of the book as well. But we also know that there's a trend here with sci-fi books being adapted into films. They're not always the best. They're not always what we're expecting.
Yes, but this one is so easy, I feel, because there's not this big lore thing in the background. Some of the point of War of the Worlds is capturing some of that hysteria and traversal of misinformation. So it should have been easier to hit.
I think I agree with you, especially with one of the main points of the book also being the human condition. And we'll talk about it more detailed here in a little bit, but it should have been a bit easier. Yes, we don't have this massive world we need to build with this massive point to it. It's a simple premise, but the movie was not as great as I was hoping for. I definitely agree with you. It's a fun watch, but almost like it's a fun watch with your buddies. You have to watch it with someone and kind of piggyback off each other's energy on how bad it is at certain points. Because we have some good world building here. As far as the sets and the practical effects go, they were very awesome. They were very enjoyable. The chaos here was so fun to watch. Everything being destroyed was so fun to watch. I really enjoyed this hyper realism style we were going for. And I do like that Steven here had a very tight focus. Was it a little too tight? Maybe.
Totally. At the sacrifice of everything else.
Everything else. But at least he knew he had a point to his movie. A single dad trying to rescue his kids and bring them back to the mom, I guess.
And he obviously had a favorite.
He obviously had a favorite. We also have some really cool, like, suspense films. You mentioned maybe kind of horror-esque. And I could see that. You know, no jump scares or anything like that, but definitely suspense. We had some really cool action scenes that I enjoyed a lot. But we were missing the big picture ideology here. The acting was great in some places, but not so great in other places that it felt kind of wishy-washy. And the movie had some pacing issues, which I don't know if it was the pacing itself of the movie or just how bad the dialogue was that I was ready to move on and get to the next cool action-packed scene. Because at some point the dialogue just felt weird and maybe not so relevant to whatever action was going on. And I agree with you, overall the film is a bit messy, especially the end.
Yeah, they kind of hit you with the old 1-2 of bad ending where Robbie's alive, surprise, they're completely untouched in Boston, and then, oh, did we mention that these aliens who have been, on some level, observing Earth to invade, you know, they planted these ships here, God knows how long ago, right? Millions of years ago, I think someone said, but they weren't prepared to counter invasive biologies like bacteria, parasitic things. They just wiped them out in a matter of a few days. All right, you know, that's fine, I guess. The pacing is terrible in this movie because nothing's additive to the larger point of the movie. I think that's what you're noticing. Because we're just constantly going through these traumatic events, bringing the dad and daughter closer together, I guess. And he's being protective against this creepy guy. He's having to carry her around. He's having to empathize with her condition, her claustrophobia or whatever. It's kind of in the vein of A Quiet Place where we have this kind of dualistic story happening. But instead of the backdrop kind of representing the pain and suffering, it is the catalyst to bring these two together, which maybe can work. I'm not going to say that can't work, right? But Steven's War of the Worlds doesn't work on any of those levels. Like, if I was Tom Cruise and my boy was trying to go sacrifice himself next to the military, I'd be like, man, I'm not doing this. I'd punch you in the face, knock you out, throw you over my shoulder, and go get the girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't really understand this obsession that these two characters had, Robbie, the son, and Ogilvy, this obsession to fight the aliens. You didn't say it, but I agree with you. This is the dumbest part of the movie. When Robbie wanted to run away and Tom Cruise pinned him down for, I don't know, 5 minutes of the whole movie.
It was a moment. It was so weird.
Yes, it was so weird. It was so dumb. Because I get the fight or flight response. You know, okay, these two wanted to fight.
Yes, but there was a weird air of patriotism and standing up for your country.
Yeah, that was my next point. I don't think that's what neurologists meant with this stress response. To fight with the military, fight for your country, fight. Because it was weird. It didn't feel like fight for humankind, fight to survive.
Yeah, we had the presence of the military too, but we didn't have a face, a voice for any bigger thing. It was just Tom Cruise.
And the kid was just a rebel. It's not like he at any point made it like he wanted to fight for his sister or fight for his mom. Obviously, he wasn't going to fight for his dad. That's obvious that Ray and his children have a very strained relationship. Steven, you captured that. You captured that. Well, you overcaptured that. We get it. They don't get along. All right, cool. But it was just so weird, this obsession.
Was it out of left field for Robbie to want to, ostensively fight with the military? That's what it felt like. They were there. They were on the hill. He's like, I gotta do this. It's my calling.
It was, and it wasn't, because we kind of got a glimpse of it in the beginning when he saw them all driving by. But at that point, I didn't know if it was he's just, a teenager ugged by his dad, so he just wants to get away. But he didn't because of his sister. So I didn't know how seriously to take him. And he was already rebelling in the beginning by stealing his car, purposely dodging that ball so he would break his dad's window. He's not a reliable character, so I didn't know whether to believe he really wanted to fight for a cause or not. And then in the particular scene where he wants to run off with the military and his dad's pinning him down, it's so weird, it's so bizarre, because everyone is running away from that situation. Everyone's panicking, getting out of the way, letting the professionals do it. I mean, this kid has no military training. It's just bizarre.
And then we get another kind of 1-2 air of patriotism when I think it was Ogilvy who said something along the lines of, I heard Japan took one of these things down. Why can't the biggest superpower in the world do it? It's like,
calm down.
Yeah, it is like calm down, but we just get these little nuggets of some sort of neglection. I don't know why Steven rejects to explore this, but I guess he explores it as much as a father-daughter relationship. So
that's true. And one of the big ideas in the book is this focus on imperialism and colonialism. And H.G. Wells is basically drawing parallels between this alien invasion and all the European colonialism. I wonder if this is Steven's idea of his own interpretation of that, embedding these little nuggets on American patriotism. Or is he so focused on trying to make this movie so modern that it's about a single dad and it's about American patriotism?
Yeah, this film is kind of pulling itself apart in those two ways. Not that those two things maybe can't happen in the same movie, but we're missing a core element of the colonialization of these aliens coming to the world. Because for one, there's an emphasis on American patriotism because we do know that these aliens are all across the world. If we are to believe the information going around, I know there's a little bit of misinformation spreading naturally.
Right, but nothing so glaring that we need to distrust what's being said.
Because it would be even crazier to assume that these aliens are only focused on the United States.
Yeah.
Although Orgoville might believe that. Ogilvy, whatever his name is. But we're missing a core element to colonialization. These aliens colonizing. What is their motive? Unfortunately, you can't have the message of colonialization and the do's and don'ts and what that's all about mixed with this horror-esque, mysterious, fear-inducing catastrophe while trying to invoke that same colonial mindset because that really great fear we love to experience in film comes from not knowing, not understanding the motive, for example, which is largely antithetical to colonialization, which comes with an objective.
Right.
So that is one thing you can't have both ways, or at least something that needs to develop, maybe over a series, not in a movie, of course. So yeah, I think ultimately the messaging, if you can call it that, as repelled from the idea as it is, it's hard to find any proper messaging, is a complete mess. But you did hit on the sole reason to watch this movie, and it's for Tom Cruise running away from the aliens and the destruction and some of the set pieces and stuff. They're fun. Like you said, the dialogue across the board, I think, is probably kind of garbage.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And I would think I would add the acting is mostly pretty bad to mediocre. Tom Cruise crying is...
Oh my god.
I don't know what that is.
Tom Cruise is not a crier. They should have given him some of those little, like, eye drops.
They probably did.
Oh, at no point did he shed a tear. At no point were his eyes red. I'm just saying. They glistened. I don't know if that was CG'd. Can you CG glistening in someone's eyes?
In 2005, I don't know. But some of the CG, though, was very good. The plane crash, I was like, okay, this is looking real good for 2005. I even really liked some of the larger landscape shots of the aliens, the tripods moving. I don't love the design of them. I know that's a very controversial thing. And I don't know, how do you feel about something so old feeling? Something from the late 1800s, early 1900s, kind of forward looking, what the future is going to look like. But we're in the future now, from when the book was first written in the 1890s, right? There's something cool about them when they're kind of by themselves in these big landscape shots, but I guess they really don't fit the modern-esque time period.
Yeah, I read somewhere that Steven wanted to stick to as close as possible to the description of the book. You already veered so far away from the focus of the book that it's okay to make your own adaptation, like you already basically did. Make your own adaptation of the aliens themselves. Because the aliens looked cool. I liked how they looked. But they didn't fit, like you said, with the time. I think my favorite sequence of the aliens were when they were in the water during that ferry scene where they knocked it over and everyone was running away and stuff. They looked so cool there. But that's because we got a shot of, I don't know, it almost looked so flesh-like. It looked gnarly. It was very zoomed in. And the lighting was just awesome there. That was by far the best shot of them. It's like there's bits and pieces of this film that are so great that you can't necessarily fault it, but the overall story, the overall film just isn't cohesive.
Or even better yet, pointless. Because it's so pointless. Because it's kind of like how people say how aliens would look at us like we do ants. So when an attack happens, everyone is just kind of scrambling and there's no rhyme or reason to any of the perceived action. But we're not literally getting the perspective of the alien. We're just kind of boots on the ground with the humans who have no greater objective, even smaller objective, other than to get to Boston, I guess. But even saying that feels kind of contradictory, because when we see the aliens, they feel dumb. They feel like foreigners who have never come in contact with human-esque, higher intelligent things, even like a wheel, which no doubt makes the aliens very silly in this movie.
No, for sure. And in that scene where the alien's playing with the wheel, we see the alien for the first time. And I could get past how silly they looked if they weren't doing something silly like that. And almost like we didn't need to see the alien at this point to hit whatever you were trying to hit. But it would have been cool just to see the alien at the end that died and kind of feel for them there, if we were supposed to feel for them. Although I will say I did like that parallel in that scene, because we have that alien in the back playing with the bicycle, while over here we have the humans fighting for the gun. I just thought that was a funny sequence to have right next to each other. Not sure what it was trying to say. Something about humans always jumping to violence while we have creatures like these aliens just being thoughtful creatures, curious creatures.
While outside their kin are destroying the world.
Yeah. Again, some good shots, some good compositions.
Good ideas.
Good ideas, but I just don't understand the overall point because...
And that very moment, too, it feels like, oh, we need a little ounce of family-friendly thing in here, so we're going to have the bike fall on them so the kids can laugh. It's like, oh, all right.
If that's what you want, Steven, we'll make it work.
Yeah, at this point, no one's telling Steven no in his career.
That's true. Because one of the biggest things this movie is missing is some fucking emotion, some vulnerability, because when you bring aliens conquering into any movie, you're questioning the fragility of humanity.
A Quiet Place.
Yes.
Such a great example of that.
Nothing in this movie made me feel for anybody. Putting Tom Cruise in your movie, being the hero, no longer makes me question the fragility of humankind.
I did like that he's basically just a grown-up version of the character he played in The Outsiders or Top Gun.
Yeah, like here's Tom Cruise with his 2 kids he abandoned. It's kind of funny. But I don't know what's supposed to be relatable about this movie. Is it even supposed to be relatable?
It should on a fundamental level because it's just that zombie thing. It's just like the Frankenstein thing where things we don't understand scare us.
Yes, we're humans. These things need to make us feel human emotions. But this movie's also so family-centric that you need to make it intimate. And that hug at the end was the most bullshit hug I've seen in a movie. Like, that was so undeserved. Not even gonna question how Robbie survived, but I'm questioning the authenticity of that hug. And I know this movie's almost 20 years old, but I didn't like how it looked in some parts.
It's that early 2000s stink.
It's the filter, right?
Something like that. The color grading. I don't know what it is about early 2000 movies, but they're so ugly.
But they don't all look like that. This one looked...
We can't all be King Kong, okay?
Well, why not? But it looked almost angelic.
Yeah, which is weird coming off the point of like patriotism and in the family unit. I don't know, that is bizarre.
Because I don't know how far apart Jurassic Park and this movie is. What's Jurassic Park, like 96, I believe?
Jurassic Park 1 came out in 1993.
93, okay, so it's a little bit more than 10 years. But Jurassic Park doesn't have that weird glare. I don't know.
It might be the worst era of movies.
Besides Shrek?
Yeah, of course there's exceptions, right? That and the 1980s are pretty rough for cinema.
The 80s?
Yeah.
Nah, son. Those are fighting words right there. How did you feel about I guess we already talked about the pacing a little bit, but how did you feel about the separation of the acts? Because I felt like they weren't as clear-cut as they could be. As many films are, you can obviously tell when Act 1 ended, when Act 2 ended, and when Act 3 began and ended. Because Act 1, and let me know if you agree with me, stops when they get to the mom's house.
That's when Ray realizes that he has to be a dad for a moment. That's the end of Act 1.
Oh, man. It wasn't just a weekend.
And then that end of Act 2 is when they're in the basement. And he's like, all right, I'm figuring out this dad thing. I'm protecting my girl.
With Ogilvy.
Yeah.
Okay. But what about Act 3? When they outsmart the alien? Or is Act 3 just the rest of the film?
Yeah, Act 3 is the wrap up where the hug happens and And then we get a little epilogue with Morgan Freeman saying some shit about the bacteria, and the aliens weren't prepared for that, even though they planted these things millions of years ago. I guess if they haven't been here for over 1,000,000 years too, the bacteria is going to be different by then. Very different. Nothing evolves faster than bacteria, right? So, okay. But yeah, the hug is the climax of Act 3.
No way is the hug the
Yeah.
climax of Act 3. The climax is figuring out that these aliens are all of a sudden not responding. And of course it takes Tom Cruise to say, hey, look, the shields are down. Like, what?
Oh yeah, that was kind of lame.
No one else? It had to be him?
And then all the military guys responded real fast. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god.
No one
Kill
even
me.
questioned him? Yeah. There's no vulnerability to Tom Cruise. I'm telling you. Like, you can't have him in this film. He's the one who figured out how the cars worked. He's the one that made an alien explode and killed one of them. And he's the one that figured out that the shields were down. If you were going to do an action-packed Tom Cruise film, stick with it.
He should have been some kind of like excommunicado military guy. He was too smart for his own britches. They didn't like him. He got kicked out. He could have still had this rebel, build his engines in his kitchen thing still, and
forget about the kids.
I mean, maybe the kids fit in that story, but make his character a little more.
Not Robbie.
Robbie can get out of here. But he's a crane operator for the crates on the back of 18-wheelers. It's like, okay.
No one can move crates like Tom Cruise can.
I'm surprised he didn't pull him by hand, to be honest.
And then one of the funniest scenes was in the beginning, and that's when I knew that we were just gonna have fun watching this movie. But when he says, hey, we can get a better view from the backyard, and they run to the backyard, and then there's this giant bridge covering everything.
Nice view, Tom.
Was that intentional? No way. This movie was too serious for that to have been a joke.
I don't have the best eye for CG, especially in the early 2000s, because, things look weird anyways. Everything looks like CG. But that bridge may have been CG. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they filmed on location or not either. That was hilarious, though.
That was funny, yeah. And I think my favorite part was when they were driving through the people in Athens, or near Athens, to get to the ferry. And just how savage everyone was coming after his car. And this is one of the scenes where I thought things might change, where I thought we were about to get some death here. We were about to get some story, some emotion. And we briefly did. But then it was completely lost. It was so great. People were beating up on their car. They were tearing them apart. I mean, guns were involved. We didn't know if he was about to get his daughter out of the car or not. Was someone going to take her? And everything was just so fast, and your heart's just beating. You're feeling from them. You're feeling for them. Here in this film, do we see the vulnerability of humanity in these situations? And even up to when they got on the ferry, more people could have fit in there. Why did we even have cars in there to begin with that took up space that these cars obviously didn't work?
They were already there.
You can't put them in neutral and push them out. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right.
That requires teamwork.
But then there was that one guy that drowned that was in his car.
Oh, that was funny.
But I don't know how long that sequence lasted, but it was pretty good. It was surprisingly good, and it just didn't fit with the movie for me.
Yeah, the ferry scene was good, out of context especially. And, I mean, in the landscape of just a catastrophe movie, it was very cool. What was even weirder in that scene, which I'm surprised he didn't bring it up, was this weird interaction he had with that girl he knew.
Oh, yeah.
That was so weird.
That
was
who
weird.
The
fuck are you?
I thought she was about to join our story.
Yeah. She's named and everything.
Yes. And she had a kid. I at least thought the kid was about to become a third kid.
He's like, yeah, I'm a pretty good dad. I could take your kid too.
It was so random. I also liked how you pointed out while we were watching the movie that the score was very similar to Jaws.
I swear when John Williams isn't working on Harry Potter or Star Wars or maybe Indiana Jones, everything sounds a little like Jaws coming out of him. I don't know why.
And here's a hit everyone would love.
Yeah.
But it was good.
It's the best part of the movie.
Yes, we have a very similar monster-like, suspense-like movie. Very good. I like the score. And I know we briefly talked about the acting, but I was very surprised that Dakota Fanning did a pretty good job. We normally don't see a lot of good kid actors, but she played that annoying kid really well. Those screams were really great. When she cried, her face was red. I at least saw red eyes, red face, whiny voice. I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising to see Dakota Fanning in this. We just watched The Watchers. She's in that. She stars that.
Yep.
She's okay in that. She was annoying in this movie, I will say, but she had the most performative role. I have to give it up to her.
Yes.
Especially for a kid. Kids don't have performative roles quite like that.
Right, not typically. And she's meant to be annoying. She's with her dad.
And she's got issues. She's got some conditions of claustrophobia or whatever. She's got to do a little poem and pretzel her arms together and shit.
Pretzel her arms.
And then her dad tries to sing at her at one point. Oh no.
Oh no, I forgot about that.
It was too much. Just drive your fast planes and shit, Tom.
Oh my god.
So the Marvel guys wanted Tom Cruise originally to play Iron Man. Is this the movie they watched and they were like, "This is our Iron Man"? Is this the one?
I hope not. I really hope not. I know we briefly covered the end in the beginning, just how much it was fumbled. Because I love the idea. I love that we're a species that survived from the thing that killed the aliens. You know, our immune system works. Yay. The aliens don't have the right antibodies. That bacteria just killed them. I love it. Yay. But it was just written so badly. It was like an afterthought. And again, similar to the introduction, it's a slight problem I had with the narration of the movie by Morgan Freeman, I believe. Baby Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, baby Morgan Freeman, yep.
Because the narration, both in the beginning and the end, feel like an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, this is how the book, I think, says it, so let's just put it in the beginning and then let's just close up with it because, you know, if we start with that, we have to end with it. Okay, awesome, yeah. But it's just this powerful idea that nature holds this immense power and can be overcome even by the most sophisticated invaders. And we turn that into humans are the best. Go humans, yay. Which I could understand how that could be similar, but it's not. I just don't like that the end just felt like an afterthought. Just don't include the narration at this point, neither in the beginning or the end, if you're not going to include this idea in your movie. You already didn't tie it to the book whatsoever.
Yeah, it's largely irrelevant. There's a more proper completeness in here if they just show up and disappear in the same mystery.
Yeah.
I liked what you said at the very beginning of the movie when we were first introduced to Robbie. You're like, oh, he must not be around very long because he's not on the poster.
Because you just see Tom Cruise, I think, holding Dakota Fanning, or just she's on his side or something, and you think the movie's about them. And that was funny. When Robbie stuck around for the rest of the movie, I was like, oh, okay, well, I was wrong. Never mind. They just didn't include him in the poster. And then he was gone. I was like, oh, no, he did die. Cool. And then they bring him back for a hug. I don't know. I don't know about this. How are you going to make me predict movies and then bring the character back? I'm curious to see what the rating was for this movie.
You know, Steven Spielberg is often cited as one of the greatest directors of our time, ever, in some conversations, right?
He's definitely a well-known name.
I really struggle finding Steven Spielberg movies that I like. He's got a lot of movies out there. I've seen many over the many years, but I really struggle to find the excellency in his work. Jaws is an awesome movie. It's a very early Steven Spielberg movie, though. So arguably has some of the less Spielberg DNA in it, right?
I don't know. I've seen maybe 5 of his movies.
That's it.
Yeah.
That actually might be impressive.
I guess maybe this is the 5th one, so I've seen 4 before that.
I really want to get to the point where I can identify what I don't like about his films.
He definitely has some of my favorite films. Jaws. Definitely top 5 favorite films of all time. I like The Color Purple. Jurassic Park is a hit. But is that it?
Saving Private Ryan?
Never seen that.
I don't know. Might be a little bit of a dud.
I guess The Fablemans didn't put me to sleep.
Alright, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie and going through that with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
This was hard because I imagine he has a wide range on how much he spends on movies. There was a lot of CG here. Tom Cruise is a big name. The movie was about 2 hours. So I'm definitely putting it at least above 50 mil. But I don't know how much more above 50. So I think I'm going to go with 60. Does he look like he can budget? He does to me. I'm definitely clueless on what I would give this movie's budget guess.
Well, it says here that it was $132 million.
Holy crap! On what? The aliens?
Yeah, was CG super expensive back in the day?
It must have been.
Cutting edge technology. It went on to make $604 million. So it made some money, made a good bit.
$604 million?
It was a moment in time for moviegoers in 2005.
That's true. That's true. I bet this was at least a fun watch at the movie theater with that score and that action.
Yeah, and it's also on the back of one of the most famous modern books, War of the Worlds, right? It's Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise, and it's a catastrophe movie. I feel like the 2000s was a catastrophe prime time.
That's true. That's true. Especially with the world supposedly ending in 2000.
And we're 4 years out from 9/11, so people are probably hungry to see some
temptation, sounds like. Those freaks.
Some like destruction porn, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, scratching that itch of this thing that we just all recently lived through.
Yeah, like 2012. That was a good movie.
Yeah, I wonder what was the first catastrophe movie to take place in the United States after 9/11. They were real proud about that moment. Like, yeah. It probably did really well, too. We are sick, you know?
We are sick.
Well, over on Letterboxd with 429,000 people, they weighed in at a 3.3.
Oof.
A little high. I would say maybe a 3.0 on the dot. Seems a little more comfortable for a Letterboxd score. But people like jerking off Steven Spielberg. There's no doubt about it.
I definitely need to see more Steven Spielberg films before I decide how I truly feel about him. Or if he's just going to be a big spectrum kind of guy. Nothing in the middle. Because I think I'm giving this movie a 2. And that's mainly based off of the destruction.
Yeah, the enjoyment. I'm with you. I'm sticking with a 2, I think. I was leaning 1.5, but I was like, I had fun.
Yeah.
I had fun with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I can't ignore that part of the experience. As stupid as a lot of the movie is, and even hard to swallow cringe, like when Tom Cruise started crying or singing, the ferry flipping over, the airplane at the mom's house.
The airplane
probably
was,
my favorite part. With the
was
deaf
awesome.
guy looking through this stuff, and the TV people are trying to get interviews with this.
Yes.
It's so outrageous.
Yes.
It's fun. So, a 2, I guess. But yeah, man, thank you for talking about this movie here today. And thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday and Friday on free feeds like YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, and every other Wednesday on Patreon at patreon.com/filmsteins for Patreon exclusive episodes. Come check out our next Patreon exclusive episode on Tim Burton. We're ranking his movies.
Come find out what's my favorite Tim Burton movie.
Remember, that's an exclusive episode, so you gotta come subscribe for $1 or whatever the minimum is. I don't care. $2?
Sure.
That's cool too. But yeah, join us next time for that episode. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Come request a movie. Come request Despicable Me 1, 2, 3, Minions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want.
If you want.
Rate us on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoy the discussion and gains new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/filmsteins. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmsteins, signing off.